This episode has been brought to you by JustNForm.com. If you're tired of being censored, tired of having your data stolen and sold, go to JustNForm.com, a social media site where all voices are welcome.
So, Jacob Wohl, who is a writer for the Gateway Pundit and a Trump sycophant, decided to let us know that we should be preparing for another country to interfere in the United States Democratic primary elections in favor or against one candidate. Oh, but it's not Russia. It's not Russia this time, people. It's Israel. Here's what Jacob Wohl had to say on Twitter. Everyone in the pro-Israel lobby, myself included, is already talking about how to make sure that Tulsi Gabbard's campaign is over before it even gets off the ground. If you're going to bet on a Dem candidate, look elsewhere. First of all, if the far right-wing establishment, racist, Zionist, is going to tell us that Tulsi Gabbard is not the Democratic candidate he wants, then that's probably going to end up being a notch on her belt, because now everybody who's anti-Zionist is going to want to vote for Tulsi. Anybody who is sick of how the Israeli government is treating innocent people, you know, literally killing 50 people for throwing rocks, they'll probably vote for Tulsi. Knowing, you have to understand, there is a reality in this country where people are genuinely tired of Netanyahu and Lieberman. They're tired of groups like AIPAC. We sit here and see the hypocrisy of the mainstream media constantly covering quote unquote Russiagate, investing what, $400, and it's not even Kremlin connected organizations, but if you are a Russian company and you spend money, you invested a total of what, $4,000 worth of memes into the United States elections. Not even swaying a candidate or swaying people towards one candidate or the other. They generally covered any and everybody, just making memes. Meanwhile, Israel pumps in millions, not tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars into influencing our elections. Don't get me wrong, Jacob Wohl is in good company, because the country that he hates on the other side, which is Saudi Arabia, Qatar, that entire group, they invest millions of dollars also into our elections. But what he does not want is what the rest of the left and the right establishment doesn't want. They don't want accountability for their actions. And that is what Tulsi Gabbard brings to the table in a very unique way. If you all recall, Tulsi Gabbard was the only person to introduce any substantive legislation addressing terrorism across the globe. Remember, she introduced a legislation called the Stop Arming Terrorists Act that will require the United States to stop arming terrorists. Seems pretty cut and dry, right? But both the left and the right establishment totally ignored that. Mind you, as much as I love Bernie Sanders, he did not endorse that legislation. It's interesting to me. It is. Because he endorsed the legislation by Ro Khanna, who is obviously a careerist. He's a progressive careerist. He doesn't says whatever he thinks will keep him in the spotlight the longest. And I firmly believe that. But Tulsi introduced this legislation and nobody had anything to say about it on either the left or the right side of the establishment. But she even introduced an election justice reform legislation that neither the left or the right endorsed. And obviously both of those legislations did unfortunately fail because she couldn't get establishment and some people who claim they're not establishment. She couldn't get people to do the basic function of Congress, which is, can we vote in the interest of the American people? Vote according to the people that you represent. Couldn't get them to do that. So the fact that Jacob Wohl has stood up and spoken out against Tulsi Gabbard, it's probably a victory, if anything. I'm glad. Look at some of the tweets responding to Jacob Wohl. Everything I'm seeing Jacob shows me that humanity is winning. Don't fuck with the lions, Jake. Another tweet. Another country influencing our elections. And once again, I would have to say, you think mainstream media is going to cover it? I'm not going to read that one. Another one by AZ Raider. You're convincing me to become a Tulsi supporter, you soulless little nose goblin. Remember what I said? There are so many people who are anti-Israeli lobby, anti-AIPAC, anti-Zionist, anti-Israeli government, anti-Netanyahu, anti-Lieberman, who will literally become, not even exaggerating, they will become a Tulsi supporter just because because a Zionist is speaking out against her. Proof is in the pudding. And we saw this actually happen whenever Bernie Sanders decided to turn down AIPAC's visit to their, I wouldn't call it annual, but it's a ceremonial conference where they pretty much swoon over all the politicians. Well, I should say the politicians swoon over them because they try to win AIPAC's money. Mike P. fan account said, remember when I debated this guy and he denied that the Israel lobby was a thing that pulled strings in D.C. in favor of Jewish interests? Awkward. He's referring to Jacob Wohl. Another tweet says, I love the responses to ignorance like this because you just see people's creativity come out. But Pippa's revenge, any country with common sense would banish these dual loyalty lobbyists after confiscating their citizenship and their assets. 100% agree. This is the meddling that they claim that Russia had been doing this entire time. No, it's not exactly. This is literally it. Israel's in DC pulling strings in favor or against one candidate to the detriment of the good of the American people and potentially the world for their own personal benefit. How can you get any more Russiagate than that? Another tweet. So you can have hysteria over meddling in elections based on nil evidence for years, but can openly boast about destroying a candidate's chances on behalf of a foreign state by special interest lobby. What Americans get so upset about is clearly what they are being told to be upset about. But Russia on Twitter. This is foreign influence, it looks like. _TE. The quote-unquote pro-Israel lobby is openly declaring its intent to end the U.S. citizens' presidential campaign before it gets off the ground. How is this not the very essence of foreign meddling in our democracy? Why is there no national outcry against this interference in our elections? Michael Tracy, love Michael Tracy. The automatic algorithm that runs Jacob's Twitter has already declared war on Tulsi because what she means to Israel. And there you have it. There is a real problem with foreign meddling in elections, but it isn't coming from Russia. It's coming from states like Israel, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like Jordan, just in the UAE in general. Israel included, because Israel and Saudi Arabia are friends despite what they might have you believe. But there's a real problem with meddling, with foreign meddling. And that's who it's coming from. But weirdly enough, you never hear about this in the news. That tweet should have been news. Trying to use foreign money and foreign influence to stop a candidate's campaign from getting off the ground, that is absurd. And it should be illegal, honestly. But this is the country that we live in. And this is why it's so important that we push for campaign finance reform. And this is why it's so important we get foreign money out of politics just as much as we want corporate money out of politics as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this. Go ahead and leave me a comment below. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. You can donate to our Patreon and keep helping the network grow by clicking on the link in the description below. And also, make sure you join us at JustNForm.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe to us on Roku and be part of the very first independent news network on Roku TV. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.